Welcome to Legacy Her Way. This is the podcast where women define, build, and live legacy on our own terms. Hi, I'm your host, Tanya Hendrix, and this is a solo episode of Legacy Her Way. Today, we're going to dive into something from the Bible that growing up, I had always just associated with being a mom. And there's nothing wrong with being a mom. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But the Proverbs 31 woman, when I grew up in church, was always preached on Mother's Day. We always heard the last couple of verses from Proverbs 31, where it says, her children will rise up and call her blessed. And so, that was 31:28, so close to the end. And so I've always just associated the Proverbs 31 woman with being a wife and a mom only. That was it. A few years ago, when I was researching for my book, Equal Protection to God, if you're looking at if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see the book. When I was researching this book, I started reading through the Proverbs 31. And one of the things, kind of like on the side, one of the things I like to do, and I mentioned this, one of the things I like to do is every now and then I will just sit down with Proverbs and read a Proverbs a day. So beginning of the month, I will decide I want to read Proverbs that month, and whatever day it is, I will read that corresponding date. So if it's the first day of the month, I'm reading Proverbs 1. If it's the 15th day of the month, I'm reading Proverbs 15. So reading Proverbs 31 kind of in that context, and then also as I was researching for my book, Equal Protection Under God, just kind of reading through different parts of the Bible that talk about women, it was striking to me that the majority of the Proverbs 31 is about the woman as a savvy businesswoman. I never saw that before until a few years ago. And so it was very interesting as I was reading through that, kind of parsing out that this isn't just about being a wife. It isn't just about being a mother. There's part of it. And there are several still other aspects of the Proverbs 31 where she is getting money to support her family. But I think we as business owners, and particularly Christian women who are concerned about trying to make money, concerned about should we be chasing money? Should we be concerned about making money? Does this go against what I've been taught as a Christian? So one thing I want to first of all say, this is not about the love of money. We're not talking about the love of money, which is an issue. But we're talking about provisions. We're talking about being a good steward. And Proverbs 31 woman, it's amazing to read through who she really is. And so I would encourage you, one of the things that I always encourage people to do, don't take my word for it, go back and read the Bible. Always read the Bible. And what's interesting, when you look at Proverbs 31, this is not written by Solomon. This was written by King Lemuel. And it says an oracle that his mother taught him. So first of all, it's interesting that this king is writing this or saying this, and it's something that his mother taught him. And he took it to heart so much that he is putting this down on paper, so to speak. And so that tells you there the importance of women. That tells you right off the bat not just the importance, but the wisdom that women can carry and can pass down. So much so that this king is passing this down to others that we now have. So as you read through Proverbs 31, when you get to verse 10, it gets to where she's really talking about finding an excellent woman, an excellent wife, and that she's far more precious than jewels. And then when you get on down to, even verse 11. So verse 11 is the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. what? What is that? What does that mean? So in verse 13, it says, and I'm reading from the ESV, that she seeks wool and flax. So what I wrote about, because I did write about her in my book, Equal Protection Under God, is that when she's seeking wool and flax, that is her preparing. She is preparing and she is planning for her family and her craft. So she is gathering things. As business owners, we understand that, don't we? We have to make plans. We have to prepare for our business. We have to prepare for each day, for each month, for each year, how we're going to build our business, how we're going to grow our business, what resources we need for our business. So we have to make plans. We have to make preparations. And so that's what she's doing in verse 13. She is seeking wool and flax. That means she's preparing and she's planning. And then she works with willing hands. So she's working. I mean, she's not just sitting back. She's not a stay-at-home mom, which is perfectly fine. I think a stay-at-home mom has the hardest job in the world. I have no idea how you do it. I think that is the absolute hardest job in the world. But again, I had always, growing up, because of when the sermons were always taught about Proverbs 31, I always just associated with being a mom, and particularly, like a stay-at-home mom, to someone who was there with the kids all the time. But that's not what she is or who she is. She is working. She's working with her hands. She's earning her own way. And she's contributing to her family income. She might not be the sole breadwinner, but she's contributing. She's working and she's contributing. That's who the Proverbs 31 woman is. And then it says in verse 15, she rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household. Look, I get up really early every day for my business. I know what that's like to get up before the sun comes up and be up a couple of hours before the sun comes up. But that's what she's doing. So she is getting up early in the morning. She's preparing for her day. She's making sure the work gets done because it's got to get done. You know, whether we like it or not, the work's got to get done. And she is doing this to earn a paycheck, so to speak, so that her family is taken care of. She can provide and contribute to her family. And then it says she considers a field and buys it. So, I want to back up though, because it does mention something else in verse 15, that not only is she providing food for her household, but she's also providing portions for her maidens. So she's taking care of everybody. She's not forgetting her maidens. She's not forgetting those who are there to assist or who are in need. So she is working hard to provide, not just for her family, but for others. And then it says she considers a field and buys it. So I paused because I want you to say that she considers a field and she buys it. It doesn't say she consults with her husband. It doesn't say she gets his permission. She considers the field and she buys it. She does it. I mean, she goes on and she does it. So she is looking at property and she buys it. It says she. And she, looking at these verses, it sounds as if she's buying it with her own money, not joint funds, not family funds, not from the husband's check, but her own money. She considers the field and she buys it. So what's interesting is we see some parallels and some correlations with the life of Jesus. If you read through Luke, I think it's Luke 8:3, there were women who followed Jesus and they supported his ministry out of their own resources. So they were providing for themselves, but also for his ministry out of their own resources. So this concept of women working and providing for herself and her family is centuries old, and it's approved by God. We can be businesswomen, and we can still be faithful to our God, to our Jesus. We can still seek money, not for the purpose of just becoming wealthy. although that's a great byproduct in some senses because we can provide better for families. But it is, we can work. We can have a pure heart if we want to work to provide for our families, we want to work to provide for others, we want to work to provide for ministries. And so when we have that pure heart and that pure goal and mission and being very sincere in what we're trying to accomplish, we can be businesswomen and we can make money, because with that money we can support our families and support others and support ministry. And then it says, she dresses herself with strength and makes her arm strong. And that is in verse 17. So she's not a weakling. She's not just a wallflower. She is not dwindling in the corner somewhere. She is strong. So where we have often put women on a pedestal, one that has been revered as celebrating mothers, we're told here in Proverbs that women are strong. Yes, in some physical senses, we are the weaker sex. I mean, there are just some physical differences between men and women. But Proverbs here says that we're strong. And so God affirms our strength in this most famous chapter. I mean, how many times do we hear, at least once a year, we hear about the Proverbs 31 woman. So in this famous chapter, God is affirming that we are not weak. We are indeed very strong. So that's another aspect of who the Proverbs 31 woman is. And then it says that she perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. So she perceives, she has a good mind. She's thinking things through. She understands the business. She understands what she's offering to others, what her product is that she's offering to others. And so she's thinking through that. And so it shows and affirms that women are capable of using reasoning skills and judging the quality of their work. And knowing that we can provide a good quality service, a good quality product. So we can think through those things and make sure that we're tweaking. We have to, as business owners, whatever type of business you're in, whatever you're doing, we have to keep learning. We have to keep striving to be better. That's part of being a good steward. Part of what I have to do as a lawyer is continuing legal education. So I'm constantly, there are some things I have to submit to the state bar to say I've taken these numbers of hours. But a lot of things I just do on my own because I want to learn. I want to get better at my craft. I want to get better at being an estate planning lawyer and giving the best advice to my clients on how to prepare for that unexpected event or for that inevitable event, because we all want to make sure our families are prepared, our loved ones are prepared. And also, how do I help businesses better as a trademark lawyer? So I'm constantly watching videos, reading books, honing my craft. And so I can perceive when I can perceive that my product is good or maybe needs a little work, because we have to keep working on those things. So she has a good mind. The Proverbs 31 woman is not a weakling. She's not dumb. She's not stupid. She's not just a wallflower. She is someone who is physically strong, mentally strong, smart, works hard, perceives the field, figures out, okay, this is the best place. This is what's going to be best for our family. Because at part of that, where it says she perceives the field and buys it, where did it go? It says, with the fruit of her hand, she plants a vineyard. So not only is she saying, okay, this is the great field, she's planting the vineyard for it. So she understands the quality of soil that she needs. So again, she's thinking through, what do I need? What does my family need? So the Proverbs 31 woman is, to me, it went from being something I hated and dreaded every Mother's Day because you hear the same stories over and over, to something I really can look up to and see this is a woman who is a strong businesswoman who is making sure her family's taken care of. And so I hope that you hear that next time you hear the Proverbs 31 woman, when you hear her talked about, and go back and again, read it. Go back and read Proverbs 31. It shows us that women are capable. And indeed, the Proverbs 31 woman is celebrated for being a businesswoman and a leader. Not just for being a woman, not just for being a wife or a mother, though that's part of it, and that she is working to provide for her family. But it's praising her for her abilities. It's praising her for her strength. It's praising her for her mind and thinking through things. That is who the Proverbs 31 woman is. And I hope that you are a Proverbs 31 woman. I hope that you can see yourself in the Proverbs 31 woman. Because for a number of years, I never could, because I just thought it was about being a wife and mother. And I was not those things for a long time. But then when I saw the Proverbs 31 woman in this light, I was like, I can relate to her now, because she is a professional. She is a businesswoman, and she is smart, strong, and just an incredible woman. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Legacy Her Way. If today's conversation moved you or spoke to you in any way, and I hope that it does. I hope that it did. I hope that you will look back at the Proverbs 31 with some fresh eyes. So I ask you to share this episode with a friend. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and share this with a friend so that more people can hear Legacy Her Way, can hear the wonderful guests that we have on this podcast to be inspired in their own legacy journey. So this has been Legacy Her Way. Share it, subscribe it, and most of all, keep defining legacy your way.